Okay, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I propose we start the session. I've been told that since the main forum was overrunning a little bit, that we should be tight with our timekeeping. My name is Stefan Komek. I'm the country representative of the CTBUH in Hong Kong. Pleasure to have you here. And we also have Professor Jin Mao Kim here. He will be the co-chair for today's session. I'm actually very pleased that I can chair this session because it deals with the integration of tall buildings into our cities, which I think is a very, very important subject. I think it's a bit of a shame that we didn't manage to encourage more people to come and join the session. Let's welcome our first speaker. Our first speaker is Robert Lau. He's an associate editor of the CTBUH. And is an architect who's practiced in Chicago with a number of very famous architects, including Helmut Jahn, SOM, and Adrian Smith, and others. He's made many contributions to the CTBUH and has written many interesting articles, and we're looking forward to his talk on what comes first. Please welcome Mr. Robert Lau.
Thank you very much. This is my first time in Seoul, and it's a wonderful city. I'm really enjoying it. And it was nice to see the one building I worked on in Korea, Mr. Kim showed this morning from SOM, so I was very happy to see that. The name of our presentation is What Came First, the Tall Building or the Urban Habitat and Infrastructure? The Council's name is Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat, because our leader, Lynn Beadle, understood the strong connection between tall buildings and the urban habitat. He did not want the name to be just Council on Tall Buildings, but to be Council on Tall Buildings and Urban Habitat to note this connection. This presentation is a play on words with our name. We are asking the question, what came first, the tall building or the urban habitat and infrastructure? I wrote this presentation with John DeVries and John McDonald, who are professors of real estate at the Marshall Bennett Institute of Real Estate at Roosevelt University in Chicago. Neither of them could be here today because of their teaching duties back at Roosevelt. So our introduction. Did the tall building produce urban density, or did the urban habitat of central business districts produce the density that took the form of tall buildings? Case studies beginning in the late 19th century up until our present 21st century will be discussed. Certain locations are in great demand. The basic model of land use in urban economics shows the density of development is driven by the value of the land. The case studies in this presentation describe the forces that produce tall buildings in a variety of venues. In 19th century London, the tallest buildings were Big Ben and St. Paul's. Both of these are symbolic landmarks because they are government and religious buildings. In 1865, the Midland Railway constructed a terminal in a northwest working class neighborhood. It was not downtown London, but in an outlying neighborhood. They created a competition for a 150-room hotel to be an anchor to their St. Pancras terminal. The winner of the competition was George Gilbert Scott, who designed a 300-room hotel. This was twice the size they had envisioned for the same size lot. This is a photo of it by Rocky Casal of the New York Times. This is the clock tower here for the terminal. Constructed of masonry, it is one of the first examples of a commercial building becoming a tall building. It became a landmark to an otherwise ordinary neighborhood. It is now known as the St. Pancras Renaissance London Hotel and opened this year after a major renovation. So why tall? Provides density on the same size footprint, a 300-room versus a 150-room hotel. Creates a landmark to the neighborhood. The train station can be located by the clock tower of the hotel and is located at a transportation node that is now known as the St. Pancras International Terminal for the Eurostar trains. In 19th century Chicago, the train terminals formed the southern boundary of the city. In the distance is one of them. This is Dearborn Station. The area north of this terminal became known as Printers Row. It has a narrow street grid for the wagons that made printing deliveries at grade. This created shallow floor plates for the offices above. As the buildings became taller, the shallow floor plates provided adequate light into the offices above. On the right is the Monadnock Building. It was constructed in two halves. The first half was completed in 1891 and was designed by Burnham and Root. The second half was completed in 1893 and was designed by Halliburtt and Roach. It is one of the tallest office buildings in the world to use masonry construction and is one of the tallest masonry buildings in the world because of that. Another building in Printers Row is the Manhattan Building with Dearborn Station in the distance. It was completed in 1889 and was designed by William LeBaron Jenney. It is a steel frame building and the first to use metal portals to resist the lateral wind loads. Before this time, buildings had traditionally resisted the wind loads with their masonry walls. This is the first example of metal portals designed into a building to resist lateral wind loads. When it was completed, it was the tallest office building in the world. This is another example of a commercial building becoming a tall building. So why tall? Creates high density at a transportation node that provides access to east to New York City and to south to New Orleans rail lines. The narrow street grid provides access and light-filled floor plates to the offices above. This is a photo of Wacker Drive with the Willis Tower entry. It is on the west side of Chicago's Loop. It is across the river from the Western commuter train stations. Wacker Drive was mentioned in Burnham's Plan of Chicago of 1908. The top level is the pedestrian entrance, and the lower level is for deliveries and parking. Because it is located near the commuter train stations, it has become a premier address for commercial offices. As a result, it has become very dense. This is one of its famous buildings, the Willis Tower, which was completed in 1974. It was designed by Fosler Kahn and Bruce Graham of Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. It has three distinct layers. The lower levels have large floor plates for large offices. The mid-levels, here, have varying size floor plates for medium-sized companies. And the upper levels, here, have shallow floor plates with exceptional views for executive suites. Within one building are spaces for large offices, medium-sized offices, and executive suites. This is a photo of the John Hancock Center with its neighbors, here. It was completed in 1968 and designed by Fosler Kahn and Bruce Graham of Skidmore, Owens & Merrill. Originally, the site was to have an office tower and a residential tower. Fosler Kahn then developed a structure to place the residential on top of the office. As a result, it became one of the first multi-use towers. This placed the residences head and shoulders above its neighbors here. It created spectacular views for the residences to look over Lake Michigan and be able to see all the way to Indiana and Michigan on clear days. So why tall in Chicago? High density at preferred locations. Multiple levels and entrances to allow the low, mid, and high floors and uses. Spectacular views of the city. Landmarks define the city's skyline. Proximity to the major commuting train stations fueled office development. Chicago was not the only city constructing tall buildings at the end of the 19th century. This is the photo of Lower Manhattan around 1950 from the Downtown Lower Manhattan Association and the Rockefeller Foundation. This photo shows the commercial piers along the harbor, the Brooklyn Bridge here at lower right, the South Ferry down here, which provides transportation to Staten Island, and the subway system, which is mostly north-south in Manhattan and connects to lower Manhattan. Because of its commercial activity, it became one of the densest places on Earth. By 1930, its tallest tower was the Bank of Manhattan, designed by H. Craig Severance. It is now called the Trump Building. This is a more current photo from Flickr Photo, the photo sharing website. The Bank of Manhattan is here with the green top. On the west side, what we heard about this morning is the World Trade Center site. This is an excellent site for a tall building because the New Jersey trains terminate on the lower level. A subway station connection is on the east side of the site. This is an excellent site for a tall building. Lower Manhattan is not the only location for tall buildings in New York City. The Chrysler Building was completed in 1930 and was designed by William Van Allen. This is a photo by Anthony Wood. It is located in Midtown, a block from the Grand Central Station and a subway line. Because Chrysler was a manufacturer of automobiles and not connected with the businesses of Lower Manhattan, he marketed to Midtown office tenants. As a result, this building stands out in its neighborhood and has become a landmark to the New York skyline. This is a photo of its iconic top by Anthony Wood. Because it is not in a cluster of towers, its tenants have views to the rest of the city. It has become a landmark to the city's skyline. Another tall building in Midtown is the Empire State. This is another photo from Anthony Wood. Completed in 1931, it was designed by Shreve, Lamb, and Harmon. Penn Station is a few blocks to the west, with Grand Central a few blocks east. It is also located near subway lines. Standing by itself, it has commanding views of the city. This is a photo of its top by Anthony Wood. When we see its top, many of us will think of New York City. In marketing terms, it has become a symbol of New York. So why tall in New York? Creates density at the location of commercial activity, located next to or over transportation nodes, spectacular views of the city, and the landmarks define the city's skyline. This is a photo of the Cleveland skyline with the Union Terminal Tower here from the Cleveland Memory Organization. It was completed in 1928 and was designed by Graham, Anderson, Probst, and White. Union Terminal was developed by the Swearingen brothers by consolidating several train lines into one terminal. These are also photos from the Cleveland Memory Organization. The one on the left is from the train side where the train lines consolidate into the one terminal. The one on the right is the pedestrian entrance of the office tower with the retail and commercial complex. This has remained an important city within a city complex of retail and entertainment down here for downtown Cleveland, along with the office tower here, and is now known as Tower City. This is a photo of the Philadelphia City Hall from the Philly History Organization. It was completed in 1901 and was designed by John MacArthur Jr. It is one of the tallest and largest masonry buildings ever constructed. It houses several branches of government within one building. On its top, here, is a statue of William Penn facing Penn Treaty Park, where he signed a treaty with the Native Americans. It is located downtown near public transportation. This is a nighttime photo from the Philly History Organization. Philadelphia is proud of its City Hall. It stands as the center of civic life in the city. For most of the 20th century, this was the tallest building in Philadelphia. So why tall? Creates density at desirable transportation node. Density creates a synergy of functions for a city within a city. That's particularly true of Cleveland. Spectacular views of the city. Landmark defines the city's skyline. Unifies several branches of government within one building and is a symbolic center of civic life. That's especially true of Philadelphia. This is a photo by Anthony Wood of the Hong Kong skyline at night. This illustrates that they are proud of their city. On the right is the International Finance Center designed by Caesar Pelli and Associates, completed in 2003. It is a 24/7 multi-use tower over parking and Union train station, which has connections to the airport. It is one of the 2 lighthouses in the harbor. The other lighthouse is the International Commerce Center, designed by Kohn Pedersen Fox and completed in 2010. This is an image from John Luck of Sun Hung Kai Properties Group that was in one of our journal articles. It is a tower over retail and commercial, over parking and the Kowloon train station. Like the International Finance Center, it is a 24/7 city within a city complex. So why tall in the case of Hong Kong? Symbolic lighthouse landmarks to define the harbor. Creates density at locations of commercial activity. Spectacular views of the city and harbor. Located over transportation nodes. Density creates a synergy of 24/7 multi-use functions for a city within a city. In the 1980s, free trade economic zones were created. One of these is the Pudong district in Shanghai. These are 2 journal covers of it. The one on the left is from 2008 by Mori Corporation. The one on the right is from 2010 by Gensler. On the left are the Jin Mao Tower. It was designed by Adrian Smith when he was at Skidmore, Owens in Maryland, completed in 1999. And this will be the location of the Shanghai conference next year. And the World Financial Center, designed by Kohn Pedersen Fox, completed in 2008. Notice the industrial, undeveloped look of the grade level at this time. On the right is the addition of the Shanghai Tower, here, designed by Gensler, scheduled for completion in 2014. Notice how the grade has been developed here. Another trade zone is the Songdo International Business District here in Korea. It was master planned by Kohn Pedersen Fox to be completed in 2015. It was envisioned to attract global companies with its connection to the airport and contain a convention center down at the base. This is the Northeast Asia Trade Tower in an image provided by David Scott of Arup. It is from one of our journal articles. It was also designed by Kohn Pedersen Fox. At its base is the convention center down here. The tower is a landmark into the district's skyline. So why tall in the case of Pudong and Songdo? We could also mention the Kingdom Tower in Jeddah that's being designed by Adrian Smith and Gordon Gill. Density at financial and convention centers. Iconic towers to define a district skyline. Spectacular views of the surrounding district. Density creates a synergy of 24/7 multi-use functions for a city within a city. Focused real estate investment coupled with transit investment. And in conclusion, urban habitat created the environment for tall buildings. 19th century Chicago and New York City are examples. Waterfront locations and planned transportation systems enabled densities to increase in financial centers. Tall buildings became landmarks that defined the skyline. Vertical cities within a city developed for 24/7 synergy. 21st century international free trade zones have embraced the tall building form. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, Robert, for this very interesting overview on how tall buildings developed in the various cities in the world. I think particularly interesting aspect is that you highlighted that the buildings are much more than just icons, and integration of the tall buildings in our cities is something really important for us to consider. Let's move